yarn that I am using for this pocket shawl is Red Heart Super Saver Metallic. It is in the colorway white. And it is 5 ounces in each skein, 142 grams, 255 yards. And I'm using the same thing for the body of the shawl in the Red Heart Super Saver Metallic, same ounces, yardage, but it is in the colorway red. To get started, we are going to use the K 6.5 millimeter hook that we talked about in the beginning. And we are going to start with our white color. And we're going to create a slip knot. And you want to pull it a little tight, but not too tight. You want it to be able to slide back and forth on your hook. Now, we are going to start our pocket shawl by creating a double crochet chainless foundation row. If you give this a go or you're just not comfortable with the chainless foundation row, you can chain 190 chains and then double crochet in the third chain from the hook so that you will end up with 188 double crochets. With the double crochet chainless foundation row, when we're done, we are also going to have 188 double crochets. All right, so if you're ready to get started, I'm going to show you how to create that double crochet foundation row. So we're going to start out first by chaining 4. So 1, and remember that the chain on your hook does not count as a loop. So 2, 3, and 4. So we now have 4 chains. The loop on the hook does not count. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to yarn over and we're going to slide into this into this first chain that we made. Now, if you look at the top of your chain, it creates kind of like a little bit of a V. You have 2 strands on top, and then you have 1 strand on the bottom. We're going to insert our hook between the 2 strands on top. So now you can kind of see that V that I'm talking about. There's your 2 strands. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. That gives us 3 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through this first loop. That is creating our foundation chain. So now we're going to actually complete our double crochet, which is yarning over and pulling through the first 2 loops, and then yarning over and pulling through the last 2 loops. And if you look, we now have 2 double crochets. We have this one here that we created with the chain at the beginning and the one we just made. So let's make another. We're going to yarn over, and again we're going to come right here into this last stitch that we made under those 2 right there, and we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. There we go. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through the first one, and again that's creating our foundation chain. We're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And if you look, now we have 3 double crochets. We have 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do this again. We're going to yarn over, We're going to go into that last stitch that we made. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first, that creates our chain, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2, and that's creating the next double crochet. Let's do it a couple more times. Yarn over, slide under those top 2 loops in that last one that you made, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first, that creates your chain, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And again, that's made another double crochet. So if you turn it this way, you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, let's do it again. We're going to yarn over. We're going to insert into this bottom here, and we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first one, that creates your chain, yarn over and pull through the first 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2, and that gives you your next double crochet. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's do one more together. We're going to come into this bottom part of the last stitch that we made, yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through the first one, that creates our chain, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2, and that creates the next double crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We want to keep doing this until we have a total of 188. So go ahead and make your first row of double crochets using this chainless method until you have a total of 188 double crochets, and I will meet back up with you when you get there. So when you have 188 double crochets, or you've chained 190 and double crocheted into the 3rd chain from the hook and have 188 double crochets, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. We're going to be working half double crochets in each stitch across the row. Normally, to do a half double crochet, you would chain 2. But we're just going to chain 1, and that chain 2 would normally count as your first stitch. But we're just going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a half double crochet right in that same stitch that we made that chain 1 in. And then we're going to work a half double crochet in each stitch across row 2. And that will give you 188 half double crochets. Then you'll chain 1 again, turn, and for rows 3, 4, and 5, you're going to repeat row 2 so that you'll end up with 4 rows of half double crochets. So go ahead and complete rows 2 through 5, working a half double crochet in each stitch, chaining 1 before the turn, working the first stitch right in the same stitch as the chain 1, and I will meet up with you at the end of row 5. All right, we have finished row 5. So we have 1 row of double crochets using the chainless foundation, 4 rows of half double crochets, And for this next row, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and for row 6, we're going to be making double crochets. Now, normally you would chain 2 to do a double crochet, but we're going to chain 1 and work that double crochet right in the same space, or same stitch as that chain 1. And then all the way down row 6, we're going to work double crochets. When you get to the end of row 6, you will have 188 double crochets. So go ahead and finish working your double crochets all the way down row 6, and I will meet up with you at the end of row 6. We are at the end of row 6, so we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go ahead and fasten off and join our red. We're going to bring in our red yarn, and we're going to create a slip knot, and we're going to join right here in this first stitch, and we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Going to pull these tails around to the back and weave them in as we go. And then right here in this same stitch as the chain 1, we're going to work a half double crochet, and then in each stitch across we're going to work a double crochet all the way down to the very last stitch of this row, and in that very last stitch we'll work a half double crochet. So we're going to keep working these double crochets all the way down the row, working a half double crochet in the very last stitch, and go ahead and work on that, and I will meet up with you at the end. If you're weaving your tails in like I am, just keep going until you feel like you've got them nice and secured. And when you feel like you have secured those tails in, I'm just going to give them a little bit of a tug, clip off what we don't need, and we're just going to keep working double crochets all the way down until we get to that last stitch, and we'll end with a half double crochet. So keep going and I will meet up with you at the end. So here we are at the end of row 1 of the body, and we've done all of our double crochets across. So in this very last stitch we are going to do a half double crochet, and we're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work. So after we've turned our work, we're going to do a half double crochet right in the same stitch that we did the chain 1 in. And now we're going to work double crochets, but instead of working in this next stitch, we're going to work around this post. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to insert our hook in this space, and we're going to go around from the front to the back, around that post, pushing it forward, bringing our hook from the back up to the front, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then complete our double crochet. We're going to do it again, but this time we're going to come from the back into that space to the front. We're going to go around the post, pushing it to the back, and go from the front to the back, yarn over, pull up a loop, and complete our double crochet. And we're going to repeat that alternating. So we're going to go from the front of that space to the back, around that post, pushing it forward, bringing our hook from the back to the front, yarn over, pull up a loop, and complete our double crochet. Now we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to go from the back to the front, around that post, pushing it to the back, bringing our hook from the front to the back, yarning over, pulling up a loop, and completing that double crochet. I'll do one more set with you. We're going to yarn over, take our hook into the space from the front to the back, go around that post, pushing it forward, bringing our hook from the back to the front again, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then complete our double crochet. Yarn over, go from the back to the front, push that post to the back, bring your hook from the front to the back, yarn over, pull up a loop, and complete your double crochet. And we're going to keep alternating that all the way down the row until we get to the very last stitch, and we will complete a half double crochet in that last stitch. So go ahead and continue down row 2 of the body, and I will meet up with you when we get to the end of this row. So here we are down at the end of our row. We have just finished with a back post double crochet, and in this very last stitch we are going to do a half double crochet, and that completes row 2 of the body. So now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And since we only chained 1, we're going to do a half double crochet right here in this first stitch that we did the chain 1 in. All right. And now we're going to just repeat the very last row that we did, starting with our front post double crochet, then our back post, then our front post, then our back post, so that we're continuing to create this kind of ridge effect going all the way along our pocket shawl. So you're going to continue repeating the last row until you have a total of 30 rows. Once you have 30 rows completed, then we will meet back up together and we will create the second side of the border going around our pocket shawl. So here we are. We have completed our first side of our border, and then 30 rows of our pocket shawl. And this is where we're at. That is just so gorgeous. I love this. It is just beautiful. Look at all the glitter sparkles through it. And here it looks almost silver and white, but let me see if I bring it closer if you can actually see that it's actually red. The glitter is actually red, but it doesn't look that. Let me see if I turn my light off. It still looks silver or white, but it's actually, you can kind of see it like right there. It's actually red glitter. going through there, but oh my gosh, that is beautiful. All right, so let's pick up with where we left off. And we're now going to create this side of the border over here. So grab whatever color you're making your border in. I am using white again. And we are going to complete this just like we did on the other side. Let me attach my yarn. It's kind of being all tricky. All right, here we go. There we go. So we're going to get that attached. And then we're going to chain 2. That chain 2 will count as the first stitch. And we're going to do this border just like we did the last border. And we're just going to work across in these individual stitches, like right there, and right there, and right there, and right there, and right there. And we're just going to work across each of those. And the first row is going to be double crochet, and then the next 4 rows will be half double crochets, and then the last row will be double crochet. So we'll have 1 row double crochet, 4 rows of half double crochet, and 1 row of double crochet again. So go ahead and work up those 6 rows to create that other side of the border, and I will meet back with you when you complete those 6 rows. And just to get us started real quick, I'm just going to work a couple of these double crochets here, and I'm going to be working over my tails so that I can secure them in. And now that I've got that, I'm going to go right here into the very next stitch and work a double crochet. And of course I'm going to do that all the way down, just working in each of those stitches that were created from the front and back post double crochets that we made on those last 30 rows. And if you're doing your tails as I am, after you've just worked over them for a couple stitches and you feel comfortable that they're nice and secured in, then you can go ahead and give them a tug and cut off any remaining excess that you have. And I'm gonna do 1 more stitch, and then I should have mine secured in pretty good. All right, and as you can see, it's sticking out a little bit, so I'm just going to give it a nice little tug so they disappear. And in doing that, it gave me a little bit more strands there, or longer strands. So I'm just going to go ahead and work a couple more stitches over them. And this should be enough for sure. And again, I'm going to just pull that nice and snug, and then grab my scissors and cut off that excess. And then I'm just going to continue working my double crochets all the way down this row. And then again, when I finish, I'm going to work 4 rows of half double crochets, and then I will complete the 6th row working double crochets 1 more time. And then you can go ahead and fasten off, and then we'll come back and start working on the pockets for our shawl. And if you need any help doing this side of the border, all you need to do is rewind the video and you can look at the tutorial section on how we created that first side of the border. The only difference will be on the very first row, we did a chainless double crochet. So we did our foundation row and our first row of double crochets together. And of course on this here, we're working right into the project that we had already worked. So we're just doing double crochets. We don't have to do any foundation row as we did in the very beginning. So, all right. So once again, work your row of double crochets, 4 rows of half double crochets, remembering to chain 2 at the beginning of each row, and then complete your 6th and final row for your border, working double crochets. And then we will be done with the body of our pocket shawl, and all we will have left to do is the pockets. And then I will share a extra step that you can do with your pocket shawl if you want. It is not, necessary, so it is entirely up to you, but we're going to add tassels to our pocket shawl. So I will do a little section on how to make tassels and then how to attach them to your pocket shawl after we have created the pockets. All right. I will meet up with you when we've completed this side of our border. Here we are. Pocket shawl is completed. Here's the body. Here's the 2 ends with the border. And just to give you just a little bit of a view, I'll show you a little bit more of it in its entirety in just a little bit. But there it is, kind of folded up, but and come in and look at that a little bit more up close. How those front and back posts turned out. And of course, it was done going this way. So you can see the front post there and then the back post are hidden in the in-between there. Oh, I was like, what was that blue behind there? It was the hook. But anyway, so and then just coming up. All right. So let me get this out the way, and we are going to start on the pockets. I've already worked one of the pockets up. This is what it's going to look like. Let me turn my light off. Oops. A minute so you can see that a little bit better. But that's one of the pockets there. So nice size pocket to put the hand in. All right, so to get started with that, you need to grab your red or whatever color you are using and make a slip knot. And we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to come right back into this very first stitch up under those 2 strands that make the V. And we're going to yarn over. Whoops. Have to yarn over first, sorry. Yarn over, then insert your hook into that first stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first one, yarn over and pull through the next 2, and yarn over and pull through the last 2, and that has created a double crochet plus a chain for the foundation. And that now gives us 1, 2 double crochet. So we're going to do this just like we did with the body of the shawl for the pocket. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to come right here into the bottom part of that stitch we just made, up under those 2 strands that form that V. And then we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first one, yarn over and pull through the next 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And now we have a total of 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's do that again a couple more times. Yarn over, come right here back underneath the bottom of that last stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first, yarn over and pull through the next 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. Let's do that one more time together. Yarn over, come right here under the bottom part of that last stitch you just made, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first to make the foundation chain, yarn over and pull through the first 2 for the first part of the double crochet, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And that has created another double crochet. And we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one makes 5. We'll do that one more time together. We're going to yarn over, come up underneath this last stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first loop, yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And now we have 6 double crochets. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one makes 6. All right, so keep doing that all the way across until you have made a total of 24, my bad, 24 double crochets, and then I will meet back up with you at the end of the 24th double crochet. All right, so after you have made your 24 double crochets, we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and turn your work. That chain 2 is going to count as your first double crochet. And we're going to do just like we did with the body of the pocket shawl. We're going to do front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So we're going to start with our front post double crochet. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook in between the 2 posts from the front to the back, come around that post, push it forward, bringing your hook from the back to the front again, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops, and you've created your first front post double crochet. Now we're going to do a back post double crochet. So we're going to enter the hook from the back to the front. We're going to come and push that post to the back, and in doing so take our hook from the front to the back, yarn over and pull up a loop. We now have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. So we've now done a front post and a back post double crochet. Let's do the front post again. Yarn over, go from the front to the back and around that post, pushing it forward to the front. That's what makes it a front post double crochet, or front post. And then we're going to yarn over, pull up the loop, and work our double crochet as we normally would. By yarning over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the last 2 loops. And now let's do the back post. To do that, we insert the hook from the back to the front, pushing that post to the back, bringing the hook from the front back to the back again, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, and complete your double crochet. Yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And so you have a front post, back post, front post, and a back post. So keep doing that all the way down across your pocket until you get to the very last stitch. And when you get to the last stitch, work a double crochet into that stitch, and then I will meet up with you at the end of this row. All right, so we've come to the end of that row. We're going to chain 2, turn our work, and again, that chain 2 is going to count as the first double crochet. And then you're just going to repeat the very last row that you just did, working front post double crochets and back post double crochets across the row until you get to the very last stitch. And then you're going to work a double crochet into that last stitch, chain 2, turn your work, and repeat the row. And you're going to do that until you have a total of 20 rows. When you have a total of 20 rows, we will meet back up and I will show you what to do next to complete the pocket for your pocket shawl. All right, so we have completed our rows. So we are going to go ahead and fasten off. Give myself a little bit of a tail there. All right, I'm going to bring this one back in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 rows of white up here, which just kind of helps to give it an accent color to it. And then after that, we are going to actually just come around and create a little border. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our white. And I'm just going to join my white right here into this very last stitch. Okay, got my color joined. And then all I did was half double crochets on these top 3 rows. So we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn our work. And again, as always, I like to work my tails in as I go. So I'm going to crochet over the top of those. And that chain 2 is going to count as the first half double crochet in this stitch. And so I'm going to come right into the very top of each of these front and back post double crochets and work my half double crochets. So I'm going to slide right in there. And again, working over those tails, I am just going to work half double crochets. And that looks like I'm getting towards the end of my tails. So after that half double crochet, I'm going to give these little tails a little bit of a tug. Oh yeah, I saw that one really. Oh yeah, look at there. So I've got a little bit more room. So I'm going to work a couple more half double crochets over those tails. And that should be plenty. So I'm going to give it one more little tug on each of those tails. And now I'm going to clip off the excess. And we're going to just keep going right across this row, working half double crochets. And when we get to the end of the row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, work half double crochets across again. When we get to the end, chain 2 and work one more row of half double crochets, but do not fasten off when you get to the end of the 3rd row of half double crochets. So go ahead and finish this row, which I'm almost there, and chain 2, work 2 more rows of those half double crochets, and I will meet up with you. And since I'm almost to the end of this row, I'm going to go ahead and finish off these half double crochets with you, and we're going to slip right into the top of that chain 2, work that last one, chain 2, 1, 2, turn our work, and we're just going to come right back across. Remember that chain 2 counts as the first one, so you'll just go right into the next one, working a half double crochet. So I will meet up with you after you finish this row and the 3rd row of half double crochets, and then we will continue putting on a little bit of an accent border around the entire pocket. So I will meet back up with you there. All right, so we are at the end of the 3rd row of half double crochets. So now all we're going to do is we're going to work around the pocket doing single crochet. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're just going to go right into each stitch around, working a single crochet. So just go into each stitch, working 1 single crochet. Oops. Want to make sure I get up under both loops. There we go. And so we're just going to give it a little bit of a border going around the pocket. So go ahead and work a single crochet into each of those stitches around. And when I got to the corner, I actually did 2 single crochets in each of the corners, so it would kind of help it going around. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I will meet back up with you when you get to this other side over here. So when you have come all the way around your pocket, creating that border, and you've made your last single crochet on the side of this last row that was going across the top, do not fasten off. Then take your yarn, pull it down around your pocket like this, okay, because we're going to create a tail for sewing on, but I always like to make sure I have enough. So I'm going to bring my yarn, and I'm just kind of doing it loosely, and I'm going to measure it around a second time, and then trim that off. And that way I have enough yarn to sew my pocket onto my pocket shawl. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fasten off my color and just pull that all the way through and fasten it off. And then I'm going to grab my yarn needle, the beautiful one I got from Crochet Society. And then I'm going to go grab my pocket shawl. Oh, this is so pretty. All right, now, then you have to determine where you want to put your pocket. And the thing about this front and back post, it gives it kind of a springy action. So, but it also draws it up a little bit. So as I'm sewing it on, and I'm going to pin it down, as you can see, I can kind of open it up a little bit because of that springiness. So it will actually give me a little bit bigger of a pocket. And so there's about the actual width of my pocket. And when I put my hand in there, you can see that's plenty enough room for me to put a hand down in. Now I'm going to be adding tassels to the end of this pocket shawl. So I do want to make sure that I'm leaving this end row open and available. And because I'm going to put tassels, I don't want my pocket to sit right down on top of the end. I want to bring it up a little bit. So I'm going to probably make sure that there is a good couple rows between the end and my pocket. So this here is row 1. This is a row 2. In between is a row 3. In between, or excuse me, this next ridge is a 4. And so this in between one is 5. So I'm going to sit it right on top of the 6th row, which will be 1, 2, 3 of the bumps. Remember, our front posts are sticking out, our back posts are on this side, so they're in between. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 of the front post, and that's where I'm going to line my pocket shawl up. And then over here, I want to make sure that I've got it evenly spaced, and I do. So now I'm going to use my Crochet Society little hedgehog straight pins. And if you don't have something as long as these Crochet Society straight pins are, you can just use regular straight pins. You don't even have to use straight pins. I like doing it to make sure that my pocket is staying in place as I'm sewing it on. So I'm going to grab a couple of these straight pins and go ahead and lay them out so that I can use them to go ahead and put my pocket on. Now, this is where I want it on the bottom part, so I'm going to start there first. And I'm just going to use that straight pin and just pin it down and secure it on. So it is in place. And that way I know it's not going to move. Again, I'm just making sure that I've got it evenly spaced there, and I do. Love these new pins from Crochet Society. All right, I'm going to pull this out to where I want it. And I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. Just pinning it down. So it is nice and in place. And I can remove the pins as I sew it on. All right, and now I'm going to come do this other side. Just grabbing a couple more pins here. And I'm going to start at the bottom. Make sure I'm not securing it to my towel. that help me? And since I'm going to be starting on this side because that's where my tail is, I'm not going to quite do it in that corner because I'm going to be starting. So I'm going to come down here. All right. This one looks like it came off, so let me secure it back down. There we go. And again, this is just helping me to kind of keep it in place. All right, we're ready. So this is my little trick, and I'm going to turn my pocket shawl sideways. So hopefully you can see this a little bit better. Okay, I was just making sure it looks centered, and it does. All right, so I'm going to grab my little yarn needle here, and I'm going to bring it back down through. So I'm going in the top here of the corner, and I'm going to bring it through. When I lay it down, I'm going to then come and grab a couple of these red yarns that are on the top part of my pocket shawl that are just slightly underneath that pocket. And I'm going to pull my yarn through, and I'm going to show you what happens. So my corner is tacked down now, and you can't even see the yarn. Well, you can see it coming out here, but I'm talking about right in here. So now I'm going to do the same method. I'm going to come right up underneath it, and I'm going to grab some of these top red yarns that are on the top, and I'm going to come right up into the next stitch on the pocket and pull it through, and watch what happens when I pull that down. Look how I'm securing that on. See, it's on. I can't even lift it. And you can't even see the white yarn. That's how I like to attach my appliques or my pockets. So let's do the same thing. Let's go right down into the top of this next stitch. We're going to lift it a little bit and come right underneath. And I'm going to grab up a little bit of the top red yarns from that stitch. And I'm going to pull this through. And there we go. Again, let me pull it out the way. You can't see anything. It's like magic. All right, so I'm going to come up into some of these red yarns. And then I'm going to go right up into the stitch of the pocket. And pull it through. And look at there. Again, that is sewn down and you can't even see. I love it. All right. Let's do another one together. We're going to come down into that stitch. I'm going to lift it up. We're going to come grab some of those red yarns and pull it through. And we're going to do it again. And then after this one, I'm going to turn it over so you can see how it's not going through on the other side. And then come right up into the stitch on the pocket. All right, and there's our pocket. We've got this much sewn down, and you can't even tell. But when I turn it over, look. Oops. You can't even see anything. It's like magic. All right, so keep doing that all the way around your pocket. And then once you have that secured down, fasten off your yarn, whatever you have remaining of your white, and your pocket will be done. So I will come back and join you after you finish sewing on your pocket. And I'm going to do 2 more with you, and then I'm going to leave you to it. And the reason I was doing 2 more is because I'm coming up on my first little needle here where I had it securing it down. And so all I'm going to do is just remove that needle. Put it back into my little handy dandy hedgehog, and he's so cute. Tanya, I love those Crochet Society boxes. All right, so keep on sewing your little pocket right onto your shawl, and I will see you when you have finished sewing on your pocket. See? All right. All right, so we've made the last stitch to secure our pocket down. So I am just going to come right through here. And pull it like that. And then all I'm going to do is just kind of weave my ends in just a little bit, like I would with any other project that I wasn't securing it down as I went. And just pull it through a couple there. And then bring it back through. And because it's a wearable that will be washed, I always like to secure my ends in just a couple extra times, just because I do wash it on a wearable. And then that'll do. And that's it. Trim my tail off. And that wasn't too bad. That's what I had left over. So it wasn't a whole lot. And there is my pocket. And there's my hand way down in my pocket. And you can do all kinds of things. You can accent it with a button. You can even do like a little beaded thing and just tack it on and have the little bead chain thing loose. You can bead on yarn and have it. You know, you can even put an applique. You can make a little applique of something, a flower or whatever, and put it here in the center and just sew it on, doing the same little method that we did putting the pocket on. But that is our finished side of our pocket. And so now you just need to go do the other side. So go do that and we'll come back and I'll show you how to add tassels if you want to put tassels on yours. So I just want to add a side note that on the shawl, at the end of each row, we did a half double crochet. And on the pocket, at the end of each row, we worked double crochets. And the reason I changed that up for the pocket was because I knew that I was adding a border around the pocket, and I wanted to have a little bit more yarn and height to the stitch to add that single crochet on. I didn't want it to be half double crochet so that when the single crochet was made into it, that it took up a good part of the stitch, making it look like it was almost attached to the last back post double crochet that we made. So that is why there was a difference between the pocket shawl and the pocket itself. Now, you can certainly in that last stitch on the shawl and the pocket as a half double crochet or a double crochet. That is entirely up to you. You can create your own magic by using your own talents. So I just wanted to share with you why I decided to change that end stitch on the pocket from a half double crochet to a double crochet. Now that we've completed putting the pocket onto our shawl, we now need to make tassels for the bottom part. So let me show you how to make the tassels. You're going to need the yarn that you're making your tassel in. You will need a nice pair of scissors and you will need a book. The width of your book will determine the size of your tassel. So if you want a really big tassel, you'd get a bigger book. I don't want my tassels to be very big for the pocket shawl, so I'm going to use this smaller book. I'm going to take the book. You've got the bind right here, and you've got the open part of the book. We're going to take the open part, and we're going to grab the yarn, and we're going to hold the yarn down on the pages, and then we're going to start wrapping. One, and I'm going to do this 30 times. Now if you want a really thick tassel, you'll wrap it a little bit more. A lot of the thickness of your tassel is going to depend on the size of your yarn. Alright, so I'm holding this strand down over here and I'm wrapping, and I've already done 3, so this makes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Let me move this way. There we go. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. All right. When I get to 30, I'm going to cut my yarn, and then I'm going to come find this piece, my loose piece right there, and then I'm going to take these two pieces and I'm just going to knot them together. Don't worry about the knot. We're going to actually end up cutting the entire knot off, so it won't even be part of the tassel. But for now, that's what you need, so that it's nice and secure and your ends aren't just flying and flipping away. All right, then you're going to take a piece of yarn, and about so big is enough. I mean, it doesn't need to be very big, or very long, I should say. And then you're going to take it and you're going to come up underneath all these strands and grab it. Okay. Then you're going to work it up the bind of the book and take it all the way to the bind of the book. And then you want to make sure your pieces are even. And then when they're even, you're just going to tie a tight little knot like that. And then you're going to do it again. Just like that. And we're going to leave these strands to the back. We're going to turn this over. These two little pieces that I made my knot with, And that's kind of hard to see, so let me see. Ah, yes, that makes it a lot easier. All right, we're going to take these two and we're just going to lay them flat like this, okay? Then we're going to grab our scissors and we're going to come right here behind this knot. So the knot is right here. We're going to come right behind it and slide our scissors through. And if you can't get it all the way under, that's fine. You can just snip it a little bit at a time. But right behind that knot, we're just going to cut all those strands, just like that. And then we're done with the book. And this is our tassel so far. Okay. All right, so let's just put that to the side. And now you're going to grab another piece of yarn. And you want it to be a little bit longer than the last one. That should be enough. And then you're just going to lay that yarn down. And you're going to take your tassel and you're going to lay it in the center of that yarn. And you're going to lay it so that you have however much you want to be the top part of your tassel. I've already made one, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So you're going to lay that yarn so that you're creating this little puff part of your tassel, how far down you want it. Okay? And I'll leave this laying right here so you can see it. And then I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to match those ends like this so that they're even, so that when I pull up, I want to make sure that I slide this yarn so that when I'm holding my pieces up, that I have them even. And then I'm going to take them and I'm going to just gently tie a knot and give it a gentle squeeze. And you can see how it's starting to make the puff for the top part of my tassel. All right, got that nice and tight. And then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to wrap the yarn to the back, just like that. I'm going to take my two pieces that I'm tying with and pull them out the way. And then I'm going to lay this down. And I'm going to take my two strands and I'm going to tie a knot on this side. Then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to wrap it back around to the front where I originally was and take these two strands and put them out of the way. And then I'm going to tie one more knot. That way I know it's nice and secure and my tassels are not going to come out. All right, then you're going to get your yarn needle and you're going to take those two tails that you had, and they should be straight, but if they're not, just snip them so that they are straight. And then you're just going to take them and you're going to put them on your yarn needle. Well, and if you start to do what mine's doing, then just take it and fold it in half like that, and then put it through this way. There we go. All right, then you're going to pick it up. You want to make sure you have only the two strands that you were tying your knots with. And you're going to take it and you're going to start turning your tassel and wrapping that tassel right around the neck of that fluffy part. And I like to do mine nice and tight. And that's why I have the yarn needle. If you do them a little bit looser, you can just use your fingers for this part. But I like mine to be really nice and tight. And once I have done that, I'm then going to come and take my yarn needle and I'm going to go down behind all those strands that I just wrapped around and insert my needle and push it through and pull those strands down, and then grab them and give them a nice little tug. So now they're part of the body of my tassel. Now you can see that they're a little bit longer than the rest, but that's fine. We'll trim it up in just a minute, okay? All right. So here is my tassel. Got it all nice and pretty. And now, if this was the first one you made, you're just simply going to take your scissors after you flatten it out, and you're just going to give it a haircut and trim it to the length that you want. Once you've cut your first one and determined the length that you want, and we're going to say this was my first one, then when you go to do the other ones, because you want them to be the same length for the same project, you're just going to lay it down side by side, and you can see the difference. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim it that way. And all of this just goes in the trash. And there's your tassels. And if you want to make sure, you can turn them over and pull them up like this. And then you can see the ones that are still just a little bit taller. And all you have to do is just trim it. Give it that little bit of a haircut. And there. They're all nice and even. And I have my two tassels. They look just alike. So let me take a moment to clean up this little mess so it's not in the way. And then I'm going to show you how to put your tassels onto your project. All right. So let's grab our project. And this is what I recommend. If you are putting tassels across something, I always recommend starting at an end or the corner, wherever you're going to put it. And so here we have our tassels. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this side. So you'll need to pause this and make a total of 10 tassels. If you want to space them out and add more tassels, you can, but for this one, I'm only going to put 5 of them on there. So let's put all of these out the way. And we're going to start with this end right here. And for this one, I'm not going to put it in the corner. I'm actually going to put it in the middle of this particular border. So I'm going to put 1 here in the center, and over here I'm going to put 1 in the center. And then I'm going to skip over 4, and I'm going to put 1, and I'm going to skip over 4, and I'm going to put 1, and then I'm going to skip over 4 on each side, and that lands me right here, and that's where my 5th one is going to go. So let me show you how to put these on. So just like we did before, we're going to yarn it onto this yarn needle. I'm going to find my spot and I'm going to come up through there and I'm just going to pull that tassel all the way so that it is completely up against the project. Just like that. I'm just going to check my lighting and see. So let's do this. There we go. You can see a little bit better. All right, so you see I've got the tassel all the way up to the work. Then I'm going to come and I'm going to slide right through the center of my tassel, okay? And I'm going to pull that yarn through and just give it a nice little tug. And what I'm doing is I am definitely securing this to my work so it's nice and secure. Once I've done that, I'm going to come right back up where I originally came through. But as I'm pulling it through, I'm going to keep this a little bit loose because you guessed it. I'm going to then slide my needle right into the center of it to create a little bit of a knot. I'm just going to pull it down as tight as I can. There we go. All right. And so now I have that pretty secured on there. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down into the top part of that poofy part, right in the center. And then I'm going to push my yarn needle down through the wrap here and down through the center. See how that blue needle is coming through? And then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pull it all the way down, nice and tug. And then my tassel is done. However, those tails I just pulled through, they hang over a little bit. So I'm just going to trim that up, just like that. And I'm now done with that tassel. And so now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do it the exact same way I just did the last one. I'm going to put it on my yarn needle. I'm going to find the spot where I want to bring it on and slide my yarn through there and pull it so it's nice and secure up against the work. I'm going to come through the middle of it here and out the other side and pull that through, so that's helping to secure that down. And then I'm going to come right back up into the very same stitch I originally went in and pull that through. And I want to be careful that I leave it a little bit loose. There we go. So I can bring my needle through and create a little bit of a knot. So all I'm doing is securing that down. Let's see if I can do it this way. I'm trying to get my fingers out of the way. And then once I've done that, I'm going to come to the very top of it and I'm just going to push my yarn needle down through the center of it and pull it out the other side. Give it a nice little snug tug. And then I'm going to grab all of my tassels, and there's my two tails. And I'm just going to trim them off. So they're the same height as the rest of my tassel. And then I'm done. Whoops. And there's my tassel. All right, let's do the next one. I'm going to go ahead and get it on my yarn needle. And from the border, I'm going to count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and insert it into the next one. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull it right up against the work here. And then I'm going to slide it right through the center. And pull it nice and snug. Then I'm going to go right back up into that same stitch. And I'm going to create a little knot. And I'm going to pull it nice and snug like that. My needle came off, or the yarn came out of my needle. So thread this back up real quick. And then I'm just going to take it right down through the center. And just like that. Give it a nice little tug. And then pull it up. And looks like I got several little tails there that might be a little bit longer. So we're going to cut those off. And get all that out the way. And there we go. So you can see that a little bit better. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. We'll grab this tassel and we're going to thread it. And we're going to go over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then we're going to take this right up here into the next one. Pull it nice and tight and secure to the work. And we're going to take it and insert it through the middle there. Pull it nice and tight. And come back up through the same stitch. And pull it through to create a knot. I want to get that nice and snug. And then we're going to come right down through the center, through the body of the tassel, and pull that through. And give them a snug little tug. And that is it. We have put that tassel on. And just like before, we're going to trim it. Make sure everything is nice and even. And clean up our pieces and get them out the way. And we have one final one. And we're going to do it the same way. Put it on our yarn needle. And then we're going to go over from these 1, 2, 3, 4. And so right here, oops, we're going to pull it nice and snug to the work and insert it through the middle and give it a nice little pull. Go back up into that same stitch and create our little knot. Give it a nice snug little pull. And I lost my yarn, so let me put it back on my needle real quick. And then we're going to stick it right down through the center. And pull it through. Give it a nice little snug tug. And we're going to trim it. And it is all nice and done. And we have completed one side of putting on our tassels. And this is what it looks like. Let me see if I can move the camera up some so you can see a little bit more. And then let me just show you. This is what it looks like. And that is so nice and pretty. And these tassels look like they're actually longer, but it's not. It's just the way that they're holding. I'm going to have to wash this and block it, but once I pull it straight like that, you can see that they're the same length. So once I block it, they'll be more even. So now you just need to do that to the other side. And then I will take a full picture of each of the pocket shawls so you can see them in their entirety. So go ahead and work your tassels up on the other side, and I will meet up with you when you are finished.